Welcome to A Peaceful Path, special education legal advocacy for families with children that have special needs.
Hey there, and welcome to A Peaceful Path, special education legal advocacy for families with children that have special needs with Michelle Becker. Michelle is a special education attorney and passionate advocate for families navigating the public school system. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're going to explore how mental health challenges are addressed or sometimes overlooked in special education. Specifically, we're going to talk about emotional disturbance eligibility under IDEA. If your child has anxiety, depression, trauma, or other emotional needs that affect learning, this episode is for you. Michelle, great to see you.
Great to be back, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me. This is a very important issue, and I think it's bigger now than it ever has been.
Yeah, well, just mental health in general, right? Is just such a big talking point, and in such a good way, in a positive way, that we have so much more awareness of it. But in terms of what we're talking about here with kids with disabilities, what does emotional disturbance mean under federal special education law?
So, under federal special education law, emotional disturbance means that you've had one of you've demonstrated one of five characteristics, like can you build relationships? Are you impacted, by events over, more so than other kids? There's about five different ways to identify a kid who's emotionally disturbed, and that it's gone on for a long period of time. Basically, there's a rubric in which a school district will use to make a determination, as well as an entire battery of assessments. We've talked about assessments in the past. There is an emotional disturbance assessment. There is a criteria to define emotional disturbance. And basically, it's not just you have anxiety, or it's not just that you have depression. You are showing signs of some sort of emotional disturbance in your ability to engage and access educational content. And it's been prolonged over a fairly long period of time. And, I would say that honestly, this, it's become worse and worse. And we're seeing it in a lot more kids. And I honestly, this isn't a political statement, I blame it on COVID. Like, COVID has changed the whole scheme of how kids are interacting at school. I'm seeing a lot more of very early, K through 3 school avoidance. The inability to interact with their peers and develop meaningful friendships. Anxiety is off the charts. Depression, I don't really feel like we see as much depression as we do anxiety. Lots more parents coming to me with diagnoses of generalized anxiety disorder, which is stunning for a second grader who should, when I think about what a second grader should be doing in school, right? Learning to add and subtract with more than one digit, starting to learn their zeros and ones and fives and tens and multiplication, running out to the handball court at recess, and then pulling the little girl's pigtails when you wait in the line for drinks of water, right? These are all experiences that second graders have. Yet we have so many second graders who are on anti-anxiety meds and don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
And so we do have, the term has changed from emotional disturbance to emotional disability. I think it's kind of a politically correct stance, but now it's emotional disability. And basically, parents, schools, kids are all involved in making this determination. There is self-reporting on anxiety and depression and social emotional. There's parent reporting, there's teacher reporting, and basically all parties are required to do basically a battery of questions, different types of questionnaires ranking from 1 to 5, and the kid is also involved in the process. And basically, we kind of look across the different settings and the different people to make a determination as to whether or not this particular kid has an emotional disturbance or an emotional disability. And if so, what can the school district do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few levels of intervention within the school system. The first is what's called DIS counseling, and that's where you get a school counselor to well, let me take a step back. It's a little different in that once you've been determined to be emotionally disturbed, you have an emotional disturbance. How is it impacting your school, your access to your education? Maybe it's school avoidance. You don't want to come to school. Okay, so we have goals. We write goals to get you to come to school. We provide services that probably provide coping skills, positive self-talk, right? That you have a goal that says, I'll come to school every day on time. You have goals that say, I'll learn how to say 3 good things about school. Or, you'll just have goals that help you cope with whatever emotional disturbance you're experiencing. And then you'll have services. And maybe you'll meet with the counselor, 1 time a week for 30 minutes. Or maybe you'll meet with the counselor individually 1 time a week for 30 minutes and 1 time a week in a group for 30 minutes. Or maybe you need more than that, right? Maybe, we try the individual counseling and it's not working. So then what you have to do is go back and evaluate and say, it's not working. My kid still doesn't want to go to school. My kid is still, there might be symptoms like they're pulling out their eyebrows or their eyelashes or their hair. These things manifest visually, cutting, right? Middle schoolers are renowned for cutting.
Yep.
So we have this, evaluation period. DIS counseling is not enough. So then the next level is called educationally related mental health services, or ERMHS or ERMHS. Those are the 2 key terms, but basically it's next level therapy, which is usually with a social worker or a licensed marriage and family therapist, where it's still the same thing. You come on, the counselor comes on campus. They're more intensive services in that the counseling is more intensive, but it's still, the key distinction is that you're focused on helping the kid access their education. They're not going in to the counseling office and, laying down on a couch and talking about their many problems at home with their mom nagging them, right? And I think that where there is a big disconnect for parents and school districts, and this is, I've run into this a lot. And I think parents and school districts have a hard time articulating and differentiating. A kid can be in counseling, private counseling outside, and still need access to mental health services at school. And a lot of times school districts will say, you're getting counseling outside. There's nothing we can do for you. Or worse, school districts will say, well, we don't want to have 2 different types of treatment going at the same time. It's not good for the kid. And parents are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then they forego the educationally related mental health services. The truth is, they're educationally related mental health services that the school district is required to provide to a student, regardless of whether or not they're seeing a private counselor after school. And the distinction really is going and laying on a couch and telling your therapist your deepest, darkest fears, versus working with a counselor. Could be the same therapist. I mean, not literally, but both could be, marriage and family therapists. But the one at school is focused on getting you to school, getting you to develop good coping skills, getting you to engage in positive self-talk, right? Being that safe place for you to land when you're freaking out at school, right? So there is a very distinct reason that you have mental health services at school. And it does not matter if you're getting private mental health services outside of school. And so many parents are dissuaded from on school services because they're receiving outside of school services, and they're
Right.
completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's kind of the biggest issue with mental health services and getting them at school. It's obvious, like if you've got a first grader that doesn't want to come to school, and when they come to school, they are throwing desks and chairs, and this classroom is having to be evacuated, right? Clearly, this kid is a struggle. And I would say that school districts are not uh, loath or worried about finding a kid has an emotional disability. That one's easy to see, right?
Right.
These are not hard to see.
No.
Reading disability or a kid with ADD that's just daydreaming all day, those are hard to see and they're hard to manage. And you have to put resources against them inside the classroom. When it comes to a kid with an emotional disability, this is very visual, it's very obvious, and it's not anything really that the teacher has control over. It's really where, if you're getting a mental health service at school, there may be some collaboration that takes place between the teacher and the mental health therapist during an IEP meeting, or during a coaching session, or a collaboration session, or a consultation, I should say, where the counselor tells the teacher, look, we need these accommodations. A big one for kids, the social anxiety of being called on. Right.
Oh,
Here's
yeah.
a simple one. Okay, so we have, for my clients, what I do oftentimes is, if a kid does not want to be called on because the social anxiety is just too overwhelming, I have my kid raise their hand with the fist closed, which means, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. And if the teacher has that accommodation in the IEP, then the kid looks like they're being engaged. The kid feels like they're participating, and they're positively advocating for themselves not to be called on, so they don't have to worry about being called on, where that becomes the overwhelming experience, rather than just being able to sit back and engage in the instruction and participate without being called on.
Yeah, because it does show also that they are paying attention. They're not.
Yes.
It's not that they're not daydreaming. They're not just checking out completely. They're paying attention. They're with you. But if you call on them, it's gonna derail the whole operation. So
Exactly.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think that this is where mental health services in the school really matter, right? There might be a yellow card on the desk that says, I need to go to my safe space. And the teacher knows that when the kid raises their yellow card, they're going to go straight to the counselor's office. And where does all of this happen? It happens in the IEP, where we have the accommodations. It happens in the consultation with the teacher and the mental health professional. These are the things that I'm recommending for this kid based on what's come out in our sessions, right? So there's a built-in way for the school personnel to basically get all of this handled seamlessly, with input from the kid, because the kid is meeting with the mental therapist once a week or twice a week. And the consultation between the therapist and the teacher is securing all of the things the kid needs the teacher to do to make the kid's day at school they can feel safer, more comfortable in their environment, which will give them a reason to come to school.
Yeah, totally, and make them less worried about coming to school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to have the in-school identification of emotional disturbance. And I've had parents who are adamant, no, do not identify my kid as emotionally disturbed. Okay.
Really?
If
Yeah.
we don't, we can't help your kid.
Right.
What if this this is going to be on my kid's, permanent record, and they're never going to get to go to college or go in the military. No, because there are privacy rules related to your kid's education. And there is nobody that's going to have access to your kids' IEPs after high school. And even now in a school setting, under the FERPA laws, not even school personnel can look at your kid's record unless they need it for real educational purposes.
Mhm.
So there's very little identifying information that can ever be taken from your kid's record. So the idea that there is not a medical diagnosis, but an educational eligibility of emotional disability does nothing to impact your kid's future other than pave the way for services and supports and an ability to grow.
If the school disagrees or that they don't have the emotional disturbance or the emotional disability, do they have recourse there that they feel like, hey, this isn't right, this isn't correct?
Sure.
Do we go back to the due process again?
Yeah, we go back to the due process.
Yeah.
And
I answer my
meantime,
own question.
yeah. And meantime, you just continue to gather your data, right? Because if your kid is not coming to school, so here's one thing that happens in California. I don't know if it's everywhere, but school attendance review boards, SARBs. This is something outside of what schools and parents can do. This is literally a district top down. If the kid is tardy, truant, or absent up to a certain number of times, a letter goes home, and letters keep going home. And eventually you have to see the district attorney. Not the school district attorney, but the actual city district attorney. It is like a thing throughout the state of California in an attempt to get the kids to go to school and parents to be accountable for getting their kids to school.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that is one avenue. District attorney, send me to the district attorney. Please send me to the district attorney so I can tell the district attorney that we have a school avoidance issue. We have an emotional disturbance issue that you won't do anything about. And you don't even need to file due process. You just need to go talk to the district attorney.
That seems that you're going up the food chain quick there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Send me to the district attorney, please. I'm begging you. Things will change quickly. No, it's never gotten that far in my cases. And it's pretty obvious when you're evacuating classrooms because kids are freaking out and tipping over desks that this kid is struggling. And if a second grader is not coming to school, that's a problem. They should want to come and play handball.
Yeah. It's not till later that the resistance begins. I mean, every kid, my preschooler sometimes wakes up, he's like, I don't want to go. That's everybody, but 98% of the time he can't wait to go to school. So that should be for many more years yet before he starts resisting. I would hope.
Exactly. So that's a big key. And honestly, to me, we may have talked about this in one of our earlier sessions, but there's a thing in the federal law called child find. And a school district has the duty to identify and assess all students that are suspected of having a disability. Mm-hmm. Well, a kid who's avoiding school, it's easy to find and it's easy to assess. So they have a duty to actually acknowledge and address school avoidance.
Yeah.
And that's just one example. There's many: the anxiety, the depression, school avoidance, other behavioral issues, other social emotional issues that are so extreme that it requires an eligibility of emotional disability. So it shouldn't be dismissed. It shouldn't be shied away from. It should be pursued just as much as a reading disability, because there are things that we can do to help your kid.
Absolutely. I love that. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on A Peaceful Path. If your child's mental health is affecting their ability to learn and you're not getting the help you need, Michelle can guide you through your rights and options. Visit michellebeckerlaw.com to get started. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. We greatly appreciate it. Michelle, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.